Well, it is interview time here at the LeMieux National Dressage Championships fan zone, and I am very pleased to be joined by, well, she's a very good friend of mine, and we're just saying we haven't seen each other for a very long time.
Too long.
And so much has happened since I last saw you, so I'm really sorry, but this is going to be a very long interview. Natasha Baker, thank you so much for coming on the couch. So much to talk about. But first of all, how are you doing, and how are you loving being here at the championships here in Somerford Park?
This is actually my first time here. I didn't make it last year because it was just after Tokyo. So I'm loving this. It's a great venue. I mean, it's a little bit further for me, but I think it's worth the drive.
Yeah.
A really great atmosphere, great shopping, really good competition. So yeah, loving it.
International, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think it's got more of an international feel than Stoneleigh did, actually.
Yeah.
And when you say that, when you say an international field, ladies, for the person who's never trotted down a centre line, what do you mean by that? What is an international field?
Well, basically, I mean, Natasha, you've been to many more than me, but it's basically that feeling of having all the tents around you and people being able to move around and sit on the social side of it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's that the proximity of people watching is so much closer than it was at Stoneleigh. Everybody seemed so much further away, but you know, having like the VIP tents down alongside, the grandstand down the other side, there's a lot more atmosphere. It feels a lot closer, and so you can feel it so much more, which is exactly how it is on the international circuit.
I'm really enjoying, for those people watching at home, get your bottoms down here. But I really love like the warm-up area, because I really enjoy a warm-up. And there's seating. It's very civilised.
It is.
I can watch you all.
If it was a little bit warmer, we could have a Pimm's, I feel.
I think we can do that anyway, Tash. I've known you a long time. I don't think anything's ever stopped you.
Nothing holds me back.
No, weather has definitely not stopped you having a Pimm's. But what has brought celebrations over? Because I've not even seen you since Tokyo. So if you don't mind, we're going to go back there a little bit. Team medals and individual medals all around, the glory. But let's look back at last year and just have a little reminiscence about Tokyo. How was it for you? Obviously, a couple of silver medals around your neck as well. You must have been really pleased.
Oh, I was absolutely over the moon. I think having the postponement for the year really, really helped me, because I'd only got Lottie in the March of 2019. And then, of course, 2020 was a bit of a write-off. We couldn't really compete, didn't really do anything. And so the postponement really helped me, because it gave me that extra 12 months just to build that stronger partnership. And obviously partnership is everything, but I think even more so in para. So I had a great year in 2020, was I think unbeaten nationally and internationally, the same in 2021. And so I was going out to Tokyo feeling really, really confident, and so was she. And it was actually her first time ever out of the UK. So she was born and bred in England, never had left British soil. So it was a big ask for her to send her over to, I think they left from Liège and then flew out to Tokyo. She was quite tired when she got there, and of course it was the biggest show she'd ever done, and she just dealt with it like an absolute pro. I was so proud of her, and I didn't get as good a results as I did on the build up to the Tokyo Paralympic Games, but for me, it was more important that she went in there, she gained confidence every single day. I gave her a really positive time in the arena, because ultimately our end goal is Paris, and that's when we really want to be going out and smashing it. And I didn't dream that I'd come home with 2 individual silver medals. That was really the cherry on top. And of course, as a team, we never expected to bring home that team gold. Like, we had a meeting in our pre-camp, and we were all like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could bring home a team bronze? You know, wouldn't that be amazing? And then the individual tests came and went, and we were like, actually, we're doing quite well here. And then the team test came along, and we just all pulled it out the bag at the right time. You know, 3 experienced dressage riders, but 3 very, very inexperienced horses, and they just didn't let us down. They went in there, they absolutely bossed it, and yeah, it was bloody close. But yeah, we managed to do it, I think, by like 1 mark.
And there was a moment when the Dutch, didn't they think they'd won? And then they were all cheering and going mental, and then Sophie Wells was like, Actually, I think you'll find my score is not in. Yeah. And then it was, and you got the gold.
Yeah, so it was Sanne Voets, and she was the last grade 4 rider to go for Holland, and she had to get like 82 point something, and she got that score, but then Sophie's score went up, and so it was all changed again. So they did have that yay, we did it moment, and we were like, oh, wait a minute
hang on a second.
yeah, it's ours. They were very angry.
I can imagine. And then obviously we you come back, and how was that coming back? And obviously Tokyo was such a different experience, and we were luckily here afterwards, and we had Sophie and Lee on the sofa, so we got to chat to them. But you've been to a couple of Paralympics now. COVID, I mean, do you feel like people were just so like, thank you, you've cheered us up, we've had such a terrible time? Was it a different kind of response coming back from this Games? Yeah,
it was a different Games altogether. It was very eerie trotting into an arena with no spectators, and the people that were there, you know, really made up for it and did create a good atmosphere. But that was a huge stadium to go into with barely anybody, and I think in actual fact it probably did us a little bit of a favour with our inexperienced horses, but yeah, it was odd coming back, and I do think it did pick up the spirit of the nation. And I think, you know, everybody was so thrilled that they had something to watch on TV when everybody was locked down and stuck indoors. But yeah, it was a very, very unusual Games, and I think from coming from London, which was just amazing, Tokyo had all of the ingredients to be the best Paralympic Games and to beat London, but COVID prevented that. So I've got good thoughts for Paris. I think it's going to be an epic Games, and I think everybody's just going to be so happy that it's under normal circumstances. So I hope they do a good job.
Natasha, so for everybody that watches at home and I was there watching the TV thinking, come on, you can do it. What preparation do you have to go through to get ready for an Olympics or a Worlds?
To be honest, pretty much the same as any other competition. We know that we have to peak around August, September time. And so the whole year you pretty much work backwards to that point where you have to peak. You plan your calendar year on year, and it's pretty much the same competitions. We know that Hartpury International is our final selection. So we know that has to be kind of like the second competition where we have to peak at, and Wellington's really important. But for me going into this year for the World Championships, I had a very unusual year because I got married in March. I didn't actually qualify for Wellington semi-finals. I got a HC buy ticket, and then didn't compete at Hartpury because I was really, really poorly. So, you plan as best as you can, but things happen sometimes. But yeah, it's just really having that end goal and then working backwards and trying to give yourself the best possible chance that you can to peak at that major competition.
And obviously going into the Worlds not feeling very well, bless your heart. And I think you said you'd ridden 2 weeks before the Worlds. I mean, how do you sort of mentally get yourself prepared to suddenly come down the centre line? And you mentioned earlier that it was almost bigger than Tokyo in a way.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot more intense. It was similar to the arena here, the main arena here, but with a lot more people there and a lot buzzier actually around the arena as well, because we had the stadium just the other side, and we were on at the same time as the show jumping, and everybody was roaring and clapping and cheering, and so there was so much atmosphere. I think out of all of the championships I've done, I think that was probably the biggest, and so yeah, not feeling prepared at all going into it. To be honest, it was probably the least prepared I felt going into any competition in my entire life, let alone a championships, which was not ideal, but it just proves that the selectors had faith in me and Lottie, and we'd had a great Wellington. We PB'd I think most days there, got between 77 and 79 each day, and then I did the first day at Hartpury International against the doctors and the physio's advisement that I should ride. They said I should probably withdraw, and I was like, I'll be fine, I'm only walking and trotting. Turns out breathing's quite important for riding. Had the paramedics out to the horse box afterwards, and they were like, no, you've really got to pull yourself out. And then it was just a case of trying to get better. And so, as you said, Bobby, 2 weeks of riding before I went into the World Championships. And I think I just went in there thinking, look, the selectors obviously believe in me. They think that I can do a good enough job to contribute towards the team, and I think I still got the second highest team score out there, but it was it wasn't a great feeling going into the arena feeling so unfit and so unprepared. But I did the best I could do, and that's all you can ask of a combination, I think, going into something like that, whether they're at the top of their game or whether they've had challenges. All you can do is your best.
And in a funny sort of way, it's given you even more confidence going towards Paris, because if you say you were possibly at your weakest and you still did incredibly well, I mean, now you must feel really sort of like you've got this going towards Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can go in and blobble around and get 73% when I'm really...
I think you blobble anywhere.
I mean, I really did blobble, Jenny. I really, really blobbled a lot. I think I was rattling from so many tablets that I was taking to even be able to get on the horse. And so to know that I can get those kind of scores when I'm feeling rubbish, it gives me so much confidence that when I'm on top of my game, when she's really well and she's really fit, she was really well and really fit, and I couldn't really ride half of what I had underneath me, and so to still come away with a silver and a bronze despite everything that had happened, I really couldn't have asked any more. And she was not fazed by the atmosphere at all. She went in there and was such a pro, and that's given me so much confidence as well that I can take her in. I think I could probably take her into a war and she'd be like, yeah, got this, mum.
We should send her out. And Winnie's going to kill me. She's like, don't talk about the bad stuff, only good stuff. But we have to talk about it.
Absolutely,
You've been
it's
on
real.
teams for a very long time now. Sorry, you're like me, you're getting old.
I am.
But it is the first time not come home with it's 30 years since you've not been on a podium.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing as a team, you guys are strong, you're friends. I've been out boozing with all of you. You're the best team to go out boozing with. But that has got to have an impact for you guys and for yourself. Does that impact you with, right, Paris, we've got this? How is the feeling within the camp, and is this just making you guys stronger, or have you had a quiet word with yourselves? What's the camp feeling?
Yeah, obviously we went out there to hopefully win a team medal, and you know, when we first started in the team competition, Lee didn't get the result that he quite wanted. Breezer was quite affected by the atmosphere and was quite tense, especially in some of his walk work. I was next to go. Georgia did a cracking test and did really, really well.
But Georgia, again, I mean, she's done Tokyo.
Literally.
So inexperienced, relatively.
Yeah, totally. And so I felt, you know, a bit of pressure to go out there and really deliver a score, and I didn't get the score that I know that I normally could have done, but again, I never expected to be able to go and get a 77, which I know is entirely possible to contribute towards the team. So I think I got like a nearly 74%, and so, you know, bless her, Sophie, to be in chance of a team medal had to get 78, and you know, that's a big order to ask for something like that, and she went out there and she did her best, and I think she got 75,
I think it was
76%, which was amazing. And you know, she did the best test that she could, and that's the thing, all three of us did the best that we could under the circumstances, and unfortunately it wasn't good enough to bring home a team medal this time, but that's okay. We got our Paris qualification. We had 3-4 horses that went in there and gained so much experience. Us as riders gained so much knowledge of our horses in that kind of atmosphere. And like I was saying to you earlier, in Tokyo, we didn't have any of that atmosphere. We didn't have any of that pressure. And we went in there and won that team gold medal that we didn't expect to do. And I think there was ultimately some pressure on our shoulders. Everybody had that expectation that we would probably win the team gold again. And, you know, that shouldn't have been there, because it was completely different circumstances. You know, I as a rider, I knew that I couldn't go out and deliver my best, and so hopefully if I had have been, we would have stood a chance of getting on the podium. But you know, you can only do your best.
And I think also you guys, the sport has changed so much, but
so much.
Not many of the public know that.
Yeah.
So maybe actually this is a way of relaying, actually, this is what the sport is about. It is hardcore competition now.
Yeah.
And actually for us to be it, we need that support. We need that backing to stay at the top. This isn't a given anymore.
That's the thing. You know, we've been unbeaten since 1996 when the sport first started at Atlanta. And, you know, it's kind of been expected that we just are at the top of our game. And now other countries have caught us up and actually overtaken us. And each time, Tokyo was evidence, the margins in Tokyo were so small. And, it's not a given that the Brits are going to bring home the team. It's not a given that we're going to bring home all of the individual gold medals. And it's great. It's brilliant for the sport. That's what we want. People don't want to tune into the TV and think, oh, well, the Brits have got that in the bag. You want to see healthy competition because that's the way that our sport is going to grow and going to develop. And it's brilliant, I feel, because it shows that London 2012 really has had a lasting legacy, because people watched the 2012 Paralympics and thought, that's what I want to do. And it has shot up in popularity since then. But it just makes our job harder work, and we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to have these super horses. And I think as well, the perception of para dressage has changed. I think before, people thought that we had to have these, three-legged donkeys and you could go out and win a gold medal, and it's not the case. We are on top dressage sport horses that have got sass, that have got personality, because you need that wow factor to be able to win the medals. Otherwise you're going to be down. And bless his heart, but if I was still on JP now, there's no way I'd be in the top 10. He wouldn't be good enough. And so we've got to move with the horsepower, and that's why as a sport we need to really encourage new sponsors, new owners to come through, because we really need that sport.
And it's really interesting there, Natasha, when you're saying, we did the best we could do. And for all the people that watch you and you inspire, which is thousands of people, it's nice for them to hear that all the medals you have, and all your experience, you can turn around and say, we did what we could do. And mentally for them, it must be really great, and it makes them inspired by you even more to know that. But going on to sort of the commentating, because I know you do a lot of commentating, do you find that helps you when you're riding in the arena? Do you ever have it in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to be able to watch a full class, because, you can see how people present tests. You can see where they lose marks, and it is really interesting, especially when you're privy to all of the scores that the judges are giving. It is really good to see that actually you can't throw any marks away on simple things like halting on a marker, you'd be amazed if you watch a class of 40 riders how many actually halt at X, or 2 or 3 meters before or 2 or 3 meters after, and that can lose valuable marks. And so I think commentating has really helped, and it's really interesting. I really love it, and that was a door that I never expected to be opened, and I never expected to be doing as much as I am now, and I'm really loving it.
And I feel like we need to show a little bit of the other side of you as well. Like your social media has grown astronomically, but also Hello Magazine. You recently got married. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
But Hello Magazine, I mean, again, that shows how far the sport has come. Yeah. The fact that one of our para riders is on. I was so proud. I was like, I know her. But what an amazing thing to happen. But also, congratulations on your wedding. So exciting.
Thank you so much. It was the best weekend of my entire life. Like, I always thought that London 2012 was like the best 3 weeks. And I had the most incredible time. And, that will be memories to last an absolute lifetime. I was like, what's going to beat this? But my wedding did tenfold. I just had the most incredible time, and having my closest friends and family there with me celebrating mine and Mark's marriage was just so special. I want to do it all over again. And I loved planning it as well. Honestly, the 2 years on the lead up, I was just absolutely hooked, and Mum was like, what can I do to help? And I was like, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I was going to say, how did you fit planning it in? How did you even do that?
A total control freak. I
even got a wedding planner. I couldn't cope.
Well, my plan was, so we got engaged in the January of 2020. My plan was that 2020 was going to be the year for Tokyo. 2021, I was going to wedding plan, and then 2022 we'd get married. And then, of course, COVID completely buggered that up. And so 2020 was my year of wedding planning in lockdown. 2021 I had to go and win some medals and carry on planning a wedding and then go and get married. And I said to the team after Tokyo, I was like, do you know what? 2022 is going to be my year. I'm taking my focus away from competitions. I want to really, really enjoy the process of getting married. I've been competing for my country since I was 16 for a very long time, and so I actually want to take a bit of time to be Natasha, and not Natasha the Paralympic athlete, and I loved it, but I also loved coming back, and I got back from the honeymoon. I was like, right, I'm ready to ride now.
Fire's back.
Yeah, literally.
And what was also great about the Hello magazine shoot, not only to see a dressage rider in that mode, but also someone with disability. And I know you are hugely the symbol on your glove, and I know that's a huge thing for you. So I mean, it's so hard to get our sport in a Hello magazine, and then someone with disability in our sport. I mean, I feel emotional about it because I know how much you want to get that out there. And did you feel that's had an impact? Can you see things changing?
I always think like the Paralympics and that does so much for disability, but 15% of the world's population has a disability, whether that be a hidden disability, a visible disability. And okay, not everybody with a disability aspires to be a Paralympian, but that doesn't mean that we need to be shoved away in a corner and forgotten about. If disabled people represent 15% of the population, then why do we turn on TV and not see 15% of people with a disability in our soaps, in our TV programs? And so, that's why I try and shout as loud as I can about disability rights and just trying to get us out there more, because we don't get the representation that we deserve. And, even in some films and stuff, they get able-bodied people to play disabled characters, and that's so wrong. That really, really shouldn't be the case. And so, it's just doing everything that you can in every eventuality to try and push for equal access, disability rights, disability representation. And I just feel if I can play my bit in trying to do that, then all well and good.
Well, we even had a young rider on the stage earlier, Tegan, who was inspired by 2012, wasn't she? And I mean, that was just so fantastic. Already we're seeing the legacy coming through, and we get to interview them.
And that was the biggest thing when you mentioned earlier, it's like loads of people got into it after that. And literally she was sat right there. And because of watching you all at 2012 Olympics, she wanted to be a rider, and she's here, and it's absolutely fantastic. And what I loved as well, which is very similar to you, she does all these discussions, doesn't she, with the social
public
media,
speaking
and everything about her disability, and trying to get it out there and help people in the same perspective that it's okay. Come to the forefront, be who you are, because at the end of the day, it's all the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, you speak to every single person that's on this showground, everybody will have a strength and everybody will have a weakness. Doesn't matter what that weakness is. Obviously, I really don't walk particularly well. I have a disability. That's fine. Somebody else, like my dad's severely dyslexic, he can't read. That's fine. Everybody has something that they struggle with. And it's just being upfront and open and honest about that, and having those frank discussions, and not being scared of hiding that away, being able to communicate that and talk about it, because I think sometimes that can be a difficult conversation, and it shouldn't be.
No, and I think it's fantastic, with the medals, but even having Sophie and Lee today doing the demo, it's brilliant. You are doing what we do on the horses. There is no different.
Exactly.
And like you're saying as well, like I was in Doha and I was doing some interviewing Doha with the power rides. I could not believe the standards of horses. Yeah. It was insane. Like I would have taken anyone home to go and do the Grand Prix, and it's incredible that that's expected as well. So it has to be now that this is the way it is, and everything's the same. But I definitely think everything you're doing is bringing the sport more forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the FEI are really helping with that, because now every championships that we go to, dressage and para dressage have to be together. So for the Europeans next year, we are alongside the dressage riders, and that's how it should be. The same as here. We had a para class this morning. It's at an able-bodied show, and I'm hoping that can really continue. And Hartbury do it so well, and now we're starting to get in at Wellington, and it would be great if we could get in at more Premier Leagues and just just have a para class or have a para demo, or, you know, at Windsor. And I've said it so many times in Horse and Hound magazine, it's dressage at the end of the day, and all dressage should be together, you know, para dressage and able-bodied dressage. It should all be at the same competitions under the same roof, and we need that exposure for our sport because we need to be able to attract sponsors. And like you say, the horsepower is as equal, you know, and it's also, I think, harder to find a really good para horse than it is to find an able-bodied horse, because, you know, we need something. I can't use my legs when I'm riding, so I need something that's going to be really naturally forward. But normally when you have a horse that's naturally forward, they're sharp as hell.
They want to deck you at the same time.
Exactly. And so it's really difficult to find that good balance. And, you know, you never know. There might be a horse that is, I don't know, can't do changes, and it's got to the top of its career at medium. The rider can't go above medium because it can't do a change. That would be a great para horse. And if people saw what para horses can do and what para riders can do, then that might be another avenue. I had an old schoolmaster that was given to me when he was 16, and he was competed by Ulrich Mulgard and got up to Inter One, had kind of reached his pinnacle, and then came and started his career with me in para dressage, got me to the World Championships in 2007, and had a whole second career and taught me so much. You know, there's never an end to a dressage horse's career. There's always something that they could do, and potentially in para.
And I'm going to say a few words to you now. That don't impress me much. Let's go, girl. Another way of bringing us into our sport, into the limelight. Shania Twain. All right, who's your Bezzy? What on earth? How did that happen? And she can ride? What? Like, talk us through it.
She's a real horsewoman.
She looked amazing.
She was so cool. So I got a phone call saying that they wanted me to be part of this ITV show called The Pet Show, and they were going to have this celebrity come. Did I have a horse that they could ride, and could I do like a little bit of a ridden bit with them? They wouldn't tell me who it was. And so I asked one of the liveries, can we borrow your horse? And they said that this person was horsey and that they could ride. So got this horse from the livery and found out, I think about 2-3 days beforehand, that it was Shania Twain.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
I was proper fangirling. And she was so nice. It was so funny because her agent beforehand was like, she's only got 2.5 hours, so we're going to have to do this filming really, really quick. We couldn't get rid of her. She got out her phone, she got out her iPad, she was showing me videos of all of her horses and her riding. I've had an invite out to her place in Geneva to go and ride with her.
Well. Yeah, like
we can take a whole film crew and go and do something.
Yes, please. I am there. Like, I'm a massive fan.
She was so cool. Honestly, she was so down to earth, so natural, so lovely. I feel really lucky that I've met some amazing people since London, really. Like, I've been so privileged to be invited to so many really, really cool things and meet some incredible people, and she's definitely up there.
And this week, obviously, we are dressed appropriately because of the Queen and her passing. And what we've been trying to ask a few people as well is, talking of amazing people that you've met, if you've got any stories or any memories that you can share with us. God, it makes me cry talking about it. It's terrible.
Every day.
Every time.
Too.
I get so emotional thinking about it. But obviously, the championships is carrying on, and we're being very respectful, and we're having minutes silence. And she's very much in everyone's thoughts here. And have you got any memories you can share with us? Make sure I don't want to cry again.
I have been incredibly fortunate. I've met her on several occasions, and it doesn't feel real that she's gone, does it? I think we all thought that she was going to be like Peter Pan and she was going to live forever. Yeah. She had this somewhat eternal kind of presence. And so the first time I met her, we were all invited, all the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic medalists were invited to a reception at Buckingham Palace. So that was my first time in the palace, and I was partnered with Anthony Ogogo, who was a boxer who had won, I think, a bronze medal. And she came up to us and shook our hand and had a conversation about London. And of course, because she was so horsey, you know, her and I got on so
It's
well.
awkward. Everyone else wants to have a long chat, and she there stops with the equine.
Pops to move out of the way, horse rider.
What does she do that we don't? Everyone trying to look at who you are.
Yeah. And then the second time I met her, she rewarded me my MBE in February 2013, and again we were all lined up, and I was the first of the Paralympic lot to receive my reward and my honour, I should say, and again I couldn't get away from her. She was asking all about JP, and was I going to continue riding, and what did I think of the London 2012 Paralympic Games, and I must have been up there for a couple of minutes, and in the prep they say, she'll shake your hand and then you'll move on. I was just petrified that I was going to fall over in front of her. I mean, I'm quite prone to falling over anyway, and you have to walk backwards because obviously you couldn't turn your back, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to fall flat on my face. It's going to be the most embarrassing moment of my life. But it was like talking to a posh granny. She was so warm. She was so witty. She just had this kind of presence, and she made you want to give her a hug. Like she was just amazing to be around, and I met her several times afterwards as well, and I just feel so lucky that I've been given so many opportunities. And it was funny because she was flying into Northall the other day, our flat is literally right underneath the flight path, and my husband said that's the closest I've ever been to the Queen. I thought, oh my goodness, I am so lucky that I've had so many opportunities to meet her and be in her house and be in her presence. And at the time, not that I've ever taken it for granted, but it just felt like it wasn't really real, and you kind of think, well, everybody's given this opportunity, and it's really not the case.
Thought she was always going to be there.
Yeah.
It was never a thought that.
Yeah, like I'm going, sounds awful, doesn't it? I'm going back to the Palace next month. But, like for
dropping in, saying hi.
But we've got the Tokyo reception, and I think being there and her not being there I cried all last Friday. Literally, every time I looked at social media or looked at the TV, and I just can't get over the fact that she's gone.
And we were saying very much earlier, I can't remember which interview it was now, but we were discussing how so strongly she was within the equestrian world. Yeah. It really does feel like a part of the equestrian world has just gone. Yeah. And it really has affected everyone. And there was a couple of times when we were watching her drive being, moved through. And did you see people tack up all their horses? And
yes,
they were all
that
lined
was beautiful.
Up. And I just thought, that shows how incredible she was and inspiration she was within our sport.
Yeah, 100%. She's going to be a hugely, hugely missed. And I was at Windsor earlier this year, and she was just rocked up in a Land Rover and got out and watched the horses and the ponies showing, and she's going to be greatly missed.
And what a great guest to have to finish the day, Tash. Honestly, it's been so lovely to chat to you. And the problem is we could talk all day.
I was going to say, we could go on for hours.
People are going home.
We'll still be here.
I'm guessing now all guns blazing for Paris.
Yeah, 100%. I really, really want to go to Paris. I think, after Rio was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but with all of the budget cuts and everything, we really didn't get a lot of exposure on TV, and it felt like a bit of a step back from everything that we'd achieved in London 2012. And then obviously with Tokyo being the COVID games, it feels like Paris has got a really, really good opportunity. And of course, being in the Palace of Versailles, I've got to get there. I've got to get there.
It'll be absolutely incredible, won't it?
It's going to be incredible. Thank you so much for chatting to us. I know that you two will talk wedding rings and honeymoon. But it's so wonderful to catch up. Please don't leave it so long next time.
Definitely not.
Good luck for your path to Tokyo. Give your mum a hug. I know she's over there somewhere. Hi, Mum. But thank you so much, and thank you for sharing precious memories about Her Royal Highness. But for now, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the championships.
Thank you. Lovely to see you both.